everyone. I want to make a few observations about the President's leadership with regard to national security and defense. We witnessed last week the President basically watching the balloon go all across America. Had very little to say about it at the time, only passing reference to the episode in the State of the Union. And if you look beyond to the way the President deals with defense and foreign policy, you saw that it was de-emphasized in the State of the Union. Very little reference to this whole area that we're confronting in Ukraine and, of course, with China. So begin to look at the details. The defense request last year was below inflation. We saw the withdrawal with complete disaster from Afghanistan. On Ukraine, generally getting to the right position but not doing it soon enough, thereby making it more difficult for the Ukrainians to defend themselves. And no reference at all in the State of the Union to Iran, to North Korea, or to the larger challenges from the PRC. So I think it is deeply disturbing that the President put all of his emphasis on things that were unrelated to the very serious threats that we're all confronting here, not only in Ukraine, not only in Asia, but even with balloons flying over our skies. I think the American people deserve to hear more from the President on all of these issues, and hopefully we will in the coming days.
One of the most important tasks that we will have over the course of the next 2 years is processing nominees that the President puts forward to the courts or to the executive branch of the government. And you would hope that these would be nominees who would be capable of carrying out the task of performing the people's business, but that hasn't been the case with a number of Biden administration nominees. In fact, there was a huge story in the last couple of weeks about a Biden nominee for a judgeship who couldn't answer basic, simple questions about the Constitution. That performance, as a matter of fact, went viral. There have been nominees who have been soft on crime, anti-police, that have been put forward for important positions on the Judiciary. And so it's important for us as a Senate to do our diligence when it comes to vetting and processing these nominees. And one that I would like to speak to is one that was before the Senate Commerce Committee this morning, and that is Gigi Sohn to be a commissioner on the Federal Communications Commission. Ms. Sohn is somebody who has a record of far-left activism, of rank partisanship. She has expressed disdain for Republicans, including supporting, contributing to, something we've never seen before, Democrat Senate campaigns this year. She has gone after and demonized conservative media outlets. She has been part of there was a campaign back in 2016 where the then chairman of the FCC, Tom Wheeler, asked her to leak information to the press, which scuttled a deal, a bipartisan deal that the commission had agreed to. So she's just got a record of partisanship and activism that doesn't suggest that she would be able to perform her job in a nonpartisan way and do the kind of work that we expect an agency with that kind of jurisdiction that impacts so much of our daily lives to do. She is somebody who should be rejected by the United States Senate, and I hope there are enough discerning Democrats out there that will come to that conclusion. Right now, the FCC is 2-2. It's functioning in a perfectly normal way. They're getting things done, and putting her on the FCC would add partisanship, make it increasingly difficult, I think, for the FCC to do its job in the way the American people expect it.
Well, we've had a number of classified briefings related to the Chinese spy balloon and other balloons. And each time the administration tends to want to pat itself on the back for the job that they've done. The President has said what has happened with the Chinese spy balloon, he said, was not a major security breach. He said not a major security breach. Well, I was a surgeon for 25 years, and when people ask me what's the difference between major and minor surgery, major is anything they do for me or my family. This was a major security breach of the United States and a violation of our airspace. It was deliberate, it was intentional, it was consequential. This Chinese spy balloon hovered over locations, including my home state of Wyoming. We have there the ICBM, the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Base, as they do have in Montana as well. These missiles, the MX missiles, were ones that helped secure the peace for 60 years to prevent nuclear war. President John Kennedy, 60 years ago, called these our ace in the hole. Well, it seems like Joe Biden doesn't care if he turns over and shows the Chinese our hole card. He said he did the right thing. I say he did the weak thing. He only shot down the Chinese spy balloon after public pressure demanded it. This is a complete violation of our integrity as a nation, and the President's indifference and inaction showed weakness not just to China but to the world. This President has been wrong on China from the beginning. Even when he declared for President, he said China is our friend. He said that China isn't our competition. And I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that he said that after Chinese donors put $61 million into a university setting to set up a Biden Center. China's going to continue to test us, test our national security, our energy security, our supply chain, and Joe Biden is playing right into their hands. He's playing right into their hands with his green agenda, which is making us more dependent on China for minerals and materials, for solar panels and electric vehicle batteries. Republicans have a number of bills to deal with this, banning TikTok, making us more energy secure relative to China, but Chuck Schumer's not taken any of them up. Some of you have written on the fact that we are heading in the Senate at a glacial pace. So why aren't we going to these issues? Well, because Joe Biden is unwilling to project strength against China. The American people know that China cannot be trusted. China is not our friend. China is out to get us. We need a president who is willing to stand up and demand accountability from China for their spying and their stealing.
Just a little over a week ago, I led a bicameral congressional delegation to the port of entry at San Diego as well as to Mexico City to address the issue of fentanyl in the United States. So there were a number of takeaways that I had from this particular trip. One is that we need to be funding the Border Patrol at appropriate levels, making sure that they have the equipment and the tools they need readily at their disposal. That means additional cameras for Border Patrol. That means additional canines to do inspections at the border. I could go on with an entire list of items that our Border Patrol agents need in order to do their job. Second, what I discovered is that we could use an interagency task force, one that has a cabinet-level advisor at the top working with those agencies and Mexico on the issue of the cartels, fentanyl, drug smuggling, the weapons trafficking, you name it. We have seen this in other areas where we have worked with other countries and our various agencies to prevent the trafficking of illicit drugs into our country. And then, of course, we need to up the penalties that we have, whether whether it's on drug cartels, whether it's on those fentanyl traffickers, those human smugglers, or those spotters that are helping the drug cartels move that fentanyl into the United States. So again, there's a number of suggestions right there that as Congress we could act upon, and certainly this administration could put into place if only they were willing to make that decision. So again, we need to really crack down on fentanyl and the fact that it's poisoning so many of our communities. So please, Democrats, let's step up and let's work together.
Well, I'm very concerned about what I see as a soft on crime administration here. If we look at the rise in crime, we see that violent crime is up 26%. Aggravated assault is up 34%. And homicides up 43%. We have had the highest rise in our murder rate since we began keeping these statistics in 1960. And this is deeply troubling to everyone across this country because it's occurring everywhere. But what's even more troubling is this whole attitude that we don't need enough law enforcement. We don't, we have enough law enforcement. When we see New York City record resignations, record retirements. When we see our own in West Virginia, our own WVU police can't hire. Our own state police is having difficulty attracting our state troopers. And part of this is because of this soft on crime approach where we're putting our law enforcement in very, very difficult situations, and we're also endangering the public. We see here in Washington, D.C., where the D.C. City Council has moved forward to put into policy a soft on crime agenda, which is lessening the penalties for carjacking and other very violent crimes. And what does that say to our traveling public that's going to be coming up to this beautiful city, that you're not going to be as safe here as you would like to be, as young families are going to be coming through spring break and in through the summer? And so I would say that we need to focus on this issue, and that's what our colleague Bill Hagerty is going to be doing next after we get back from the break with a resolution of disapproval on the D.C. Council's decision. But I think it really shines a light on where we're seeing across this country, on the West Coast all the way through to the East Coast, a very soft on crime, defund the police agenda that is causing these rise in crime rates.
65 years ago, NORAD was founded. It was under the Eisenhower administration. For 65 years, NORAD had never identified an object and taken down an object out of the sky until 10 days ago. And now we've seen 3 more objects downed, the results of NORAD's detection, just in the last 5 days. 2 of these 4 objects, one of course was a Chinese spy balloon, and then one of the other objects were in Montana, over very sensitive military installations that house the greatest force known to man of a weapon of mass destruction. Those are the intercontinental ballistic missiles. Montanans are worried. My phone's ringing from Montanans saying, what is going on? What are you doing about this? We probably would not have known about that Chinese spy balloon had it not been for a photojournalist in Billings, Montana, Larry Mayer, who works for the Billings Gazette, and one of his buddies saw that orb up in the sky because they had closed the Billings airport. Larry Mayer is a Cessna 180 pilot. He looked on FlightAware and saw that there was military aircraft performing tactical maneuvers. He took his big telephoto lens and got that picture and posted it on the Billings Gazette. The AP stringer picked it up, and that is what exposed the Chinese spy balloon to the American people. The White House was quiet up until that point, and in fact they've been much too quiet. The indecision of the White House, the weakness displayed, is a great concern to myself and many Americans. It seems as if the White House thought this Chinese spy balloon was on some kind of concert tour going coast to coast. Perhaps they'd have T-shirts talking about where it's stopping next. It's time for the president to step up. We tell our kids, Homeland Security tells us this, see something, say something. The president needs to address the American people, and he doesn't have all the answers right now, but he should address the American people like Prime Minister Trudeau did yesterday. And they've just shot 1 down in Canadian airspace and 3 in U.S. airspace. It's time for President Biden to address this head on and speak to the American people.
Leader McConnell. Leader McConnell.
Burgess.
You've been talking a lot about Rick Scott's plan, and it's not the Republican plan. At this point, would you like to see him disavow the plan, or how do you move forward as a party with the White House using this against you?
Well, one more time, let's talk about Social Security. As you recall, there was some confusion last year about what the agenda of the Republican Senate might be if we were in the majority. And I made it quite clear that as the likely majority leader, I had hoped at that time, Social Security and Medicare were not on our agenda, period. As you recall, this continues to come up. The President was talking about it in the State of the Union. He's taken it out to various states around the Union. So let me say one more time. There is no agenda on the part of Senate Republicans to revisit Medicare or Social Security, period. I've noticed that the Speaker of the House has said the same thing. So on Social Security, it is not an issue between the parties.
Leader McConnell.
Yeah.
Democratic Representative Abigail Spanberger from Virginia said that she was more worried about what's going on with these air incursions, China, et cetera, than the debt ceiling. Where do you rate that compared to what we're dealing with these air incursions, compared to concerns over the debt ceiling and the economic consequences we could face?
Well, the debt ceiling will be dealt with over the coming months.
You're confident it will be dealt with?
Yeah, America's never going to default. Speaker McCarthy said that. I've said it in the past. I think it's what he's trying to do here is to achieve some spending reduction in connection with that. I was actually in a negotiation with the then Vice President years ago in which we actually did that, so I wish him well. But I think the American people need to know there's not going to be a default. Not going to be a default.
In light of Nikki Haley's decision to jump in to the race today, do you think that it's time for the party to find a fresh face and move away from Donald Trump?
Well, what I think we're going to have is a vigorous primary with a number of candidates making their case, and the American people, those who are registered Republicans who are going to participate in these primaries, are going to decide who they want to nominate. And I think it's going to be very, very competitive in these primaries, and we'll hope for the best. And obviously, I'm going to support whoever the nominee ultimately is.
Okay. Let's see here. I don't know when I do this. Okay. Well, thank you. And first, of course, as I'm sure you are all heard, our wonderful colleague from California, Senator Feinstein, has announced that she is not seeking another term. We're all glad she's remaining with us in the Senate and will be fighting the fight for the next year and a half. Quiet. And she'll be fighting the fight with us for the next year and a half. But she's a legend in California as the first woman senator, a legend in this Senate. She was the leader on so many different issues: assault weapons, environment, women's rights, and so much else. She approached everything studiously and carefully, but she had passion that accompanied her knowledge of her detailed knowledge of the facts. And she was able to convince people on both sides of the aisle to go along with her on issue after issue after issue. I first got to know her when she carried the assault weapons bill in the Senate. I was a Congress member and carried it in the House, and the guidance she gave of how to get it through the House, the help she gave by lobbying various House members was just incredible. So she's an amazing person. She spoke at our caucus. She gave a very heartwarming and teary address because she talked about her husband and how she so regretted his loss. And he was her true partner. We all knew Dick Blum and loved him as well. And she got a standing ovation that lasted minutes and minutes and minutes, one of the longest I've ever seen, which shows the love that our caucus and our country have for this wonderful, wonderful leader and legend, Dianne Feinstein. Okay. Now, also welcome back. Happy Valentine's Day, Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you, Chuck.
I guess I forgot the red.
Yeah.
We had a great, I'm happy to be joined by Senators Durbin, Klobuchar, and Padilla. We had a great lunch. We discussed many topics, but of course one of the biggest is judges. Today we reached a milestone. We confirmed the 100th judicial nominee of the Biden administration as Judge Mendez Miro. 100 judges, that's more than in either of the two previous administrations at this point. 100 judges who will bring balance and excellence back to the federal judiciary, who will be a great countervailing force against some of the hard-right MAGA judges that President Trump and the Republicans put in. There are 100 judges who are going to expand diversity and dynamism of the bench. There are 100 judges who embody the very best, not just of our judicial system, but of our country: experience, level-headedness, and fidelity to the Constitution. So today's a good day to reflect on these lasting accomplishments. This is one of our legacies. We talk about all the bills we passed this summer, but this is one of the most important and lasting legacies that Congress and this Congress, the past Congress and this Congress, will have. Today, because of Senate Democrats, our federal judiciary is far more balanced, more diverse, more experienced than the one the country had 2 years ago. The bench now has more public defenders, civil rights lawyers, environmental rights lawyers than we've had before. Of the 100 judges we've confirmed, listen to this, 76 are women. You say, well, why is more than a majority women? Because women had been left out for decades, and now we're restoring that. We're restoring that. Same thing with people of color. 68 are people of color, 33 black judges, 25 black women judges, 21 from Hispanic backgrounds. We are all so proud of all of that. We've also confirmed the first Muslim American and first Native American federal judge in history. You say, this is the first time? Yep, but it's there. And then, of course, we confirmed the first black woman ever to sit on the United States Supreme Court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who, by the way, was also the first public defender on the Supreme Court. This morning we received, let's go to the next subject. This morning we received an all-senators briefing on the unknown objects shot down over the past week. In the briefing, the military and intelligence people outlined their approach to each of the 4 objects. We're learning more about these objects hour by hour, day by day, and we're continuing to work with Canada to recover the objects shot down. What I can say after our briefing is that the defense and intelligence agencies are focused like a laser on gathering every piece of the information, analyzing that new information they have, and coming up with comprehensive actions that we have to take now and on into the future. So it was a very, very good briefing. What we saw over the weekend is that if this administration sees any threat to the American people or American interests, they will take appropriate action. And I believe the action they took in all 4 of the objects that we've seen have been appropriate. The military intelligence agencies are working around the clock to get a more comprehensive picture of what's happening and recovering more evidence. Now, we still have questions about why they didn't discover these balloons sooner, these objects sooner, and balloons. Senator Tester is going to lead our caucus in investigating this. It's a good question. We need to answer it. Okay. And finally, we concluded with some happy and sad news about Dianne Feinstein and her great legacy. I'm going to conclude on this Valentine's Day with some very happy news. This is Noah. Sorry, Noah's my 4-year-old. He's on my head. This is Henry Alexander Wayland Schumer, age 5 days, with his grandpa. And we are very, very, very happy. I'm not calling on Durbin, but I will. Senator Durbin.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Chuck, congratulations. Let me just add my thanks to Senator Schumer for his help, his necessary, essential help in moving these judicial nominees on the floor of the Senate. We haven't lost a judge, and I hope we won't. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the Judiciary Committee, which Senator Padilla and Senator Klobuchar serve upon, have put in countless hours to reach this point. We have now passed both the Trump administration's first 2 years and the Obama administration's first 2 years in terms of approval of judges. I'm happy to report that every single nominee submitted by the White House was found well qualified by the American Bar Association. That was not true with the previous president. It is true in this case. And as Chuck has mentioned, we've moved toward diversity in areas that have made history. We now have more women of color on the circuit courts of America than ever in the entire history preceding these 2 years. It's a dramatic achievement, and the nominees are certainly well qualified and diversified in their background. We have more to do. There are 100 today, but 36 more on the calendar and more on the way. We want to fill these vacancies in a timely manner. I'm working now with Republicans, asking for their cooperation. During the Trump years, there were 120 blue slip requests from Democrats for judges to be appointed during the Trump years. So far, only 12 Republicans under the Biden administration have done the same. So I'm encouraging them to work with us and fill vacancies even in red states. I think we can do it, and I think the legacy of this achievement is not felt as much now as it will be in the years to come. We're going to have more diversity and more balance on the bench.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you, and thank you, Dick, for your good work, and congratulations to Chuck. And it was truly a beautiful talk today, not only by Senator Feinstein and talking about what she'd been through the last few years, but also Senator Padilla, who we all learned got his start in government working with Dianne, and he also gave some beautiful remarks about her life. Timely, of course, her work on guns, given what just happened in Michigan, and of course we are thinking of those families in that state right now, those that are still wounded and in the hospital, and those that have lost loved ones. As you all know, it is the Democratic Party that has been standing up now for years to take action on gun violence, and we are not giving up and are proud of the work we've done, but we know there's so much more to do. I wanted to talk about the surveillance issue and the shooting down of the unidentified objects from a few perspectives, as well as the surveillance balloon. The first being that it was a Duluth airman who shot the unidentified object down over Lake Huron, and it just goes to show whether you're talking about Alaska or Minnesota or Wisconsin, the importance of our National Guard, National Guard airmen, and that we have capacities outside of certain big bases all over our country, and we're proud of the work that they did. But I think that the discussion about the original balloon and our approach and the investigation that Senator Tester is going to lead needs to also include the other work that's being done on China. And I first want to commend Senator Schumer for his leadership on the CHIPS bill. We are to the point, as you all know, that we're down to 12% of the semiconductor chips produced in America, and one of our big efforts is to increase our domestic production, so we are not dependent on other countries in the world as China potentially moves into this space. Another thing that our party stands for big time is standing up for the American workforce, because if we're going to compete internationally with China, and we need to have the best workers in the world. And what we need to do is give them the tools to do their jobs. That, to me, in this modern day means childcare, it means housing, it means the work that we're doing right now and that we would like to get done with the House of Representatives so that we can add more workers to our workforce. My state has the lowest unemployment rate in the country. We need more workers. Number one reason that people have left the workforce is that they don't have the childcare, and that's why you see so many chambers behind us on this issue. And so to me, when we look at our competition with China, we need to raise our standards when it comes to the number of people able to work, whether it's immigration reform, whether it's the work that must be done to make it easier for our workers to work. We shouldn't be shutting out the world's talent when it comes to American excellence. And so I think when we think about what's to come and the rhetoric that you might have heard from the Republicans, I think it's really important to focus on what agenda is putting us in a better place when we look at competing with China. Final thing is just our allies around the world and the importance of this administration building this incredible network of allies, waking it from its slumber as we deal with the war in Ukraine, and how important that's going to be for us, not just for security, but also for trade and our economic prowess as we go forward into the future when we have China threatening us economically. Thank you.
Senator Padilla, who, as Amy mentioned, gave beautiful remarks about Senator Feinstein today in our lunch.
Oh, thank you, Leader Schumer. I've been asked to also speak about the great milestone we're achieving today with the confirmation of the 100th judge under the Biden administration. But before I do, I just wanted to take a moment to also acknowledge my colleague, the senior senator from California, and her announcement this afternoon. You know, it would be impossible to write the history of California politics. It'd be impossible to write the history of American politics without acknowledging the trailblazing career of Senator Dianne Feinstein. Now, trust me, as a proud Californian, California has been privileged to have been represented and served by Dianne Feinstein for so many years. I've been proud to work with her for many, many years and truly alongside her for the last two. From her leadership of the assault weapons ban that Leader Schumer referenced earlier, to her leadership of environmental protection, from the redwoods in California to Joshua Tree and so many communities in between, her advocacy for women's rights. It's just a sweet poetic justice that she was elected to the Senate in 1992, the year of the woman, alongside Senator Boxer from California at the time. Her championing of marriage equality. She's a former mayor of San Francisco, after all, and so much more. But I want to be clear, as she was clear with us in caucus, she's not done yet. We have more than a year and a half left. She has chosen not to run again, but she will serve out the remaining part of this term, and we have a lot of work to do. Now, on the topic of the milestone, we're celebrating for all Americans the 100th judge confirmed. It's, I believe, a fulfillment of a promise made by both President Biden at the outset of his administration, as well as this Democratic majority, to rebuild the federal judiciary in a way that better reflects the beautifully diverse country that it serves. To communities like mine and states like mine, that kind of representation not only matters, it is long overdue. Diversity of ideas, diversity of, yes, racial and social backgrounds, but also diversity of professional experience and life experience. Our historic work not only includes the confirmation of the first black woman to the United States Supreme Court, but the first former public defender to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. And to give you a glimpse of what it's meant for California, the confirmation of Judge Sunshine Sykes, the first Native American federal judge in California, the confirmation of Judge Ana de Alba, the first Latina to serve on the Eastern District of California, and Judge Jinsuk Ota, the first AAPI woman to serve in the Southern District of California, and I can name more. The bottom line is, this is history-making progress under the leadership of President Biden and under the leadership of Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats. But as we all know, there remain many, many more vacancies to fill, so we've got to keep up the momentum and continue this tremendous progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.
Leader Schumer.
I know you said you still have some questions about the flying objects. I think Americans have a lot of questions about the flying objects. Do you think the president should address the nation on this?
Well, that'll be up to him. We know that our Defense and Intelligence departments are analyzing every piece of this. They're gaining more knowledge all the time. There's quite a bit of information out there, and there'll be more to come. Yes, yes. Lady in, yes, you, yes.
Leader Schumer, the argument for Capitol was fired yesterday, and I wonder what he left behind here and the terrorists. Do you have any thoughts?
We thought it was appropriate he be fired. Senator Klobuchar and I asked the administration to fire him months ago, and we're glad they did.
Leader Schumer.
Yes, Bolton.
Leader Schumer, you just heard from senior administration officials about the balloon and the UFOs. Why is it now necessary for Senator Tester to do a subsequent investigation?
Well,
Are you not getting enough answers from
no, we're getting plenty of answers. The question that looms, and we asked them in the room, is what happened 3 years ago when we saw that there were these objects flying over parts of America, Texas, Florida, Guam, I think a piece of Hawaii, and we want to find out why it took until now. Now, they're upgrading their radars, they're upgrading everything, but we still should know that answer. Yes. Gentlemen.
3 months since the midterms, has there been adequate self-reflection in New York from top Democratic leadership from the governor about what went wrong?
Yeah, I believe that, the numbers are still just coming in, the exact numbers, AD by AD, district by district, and I believe the leaders of New York are going to sit down and try to figure out how we can do better next time. Yes, way in the back. Well, of course, we want to see what CBO has to say, but ultimately Treasury will set it. We're continuing to speak about how bad it would be to let the nation default, how it's not an abstract concept, it's going to affect every American family badly, and we're continuing, President Biden, Leader Jeffries, myself, our caucus, to talk to Leader McCarthy and say, show us your plan. He has not. He said he wants to make cuts. He has an obligation to show what those cuts are. Now, I think he's beginning to feel the impetus of our remarks, because yesterday he said he was going to try to put together a plan that all 218 Republicans can support. I think that's going to be easier said than done. I think he's going to have a rough time getting any plan that all the caucus can support, because the hard right people want the kind of deepest cuts, and the more mainstream people don't want as many. And one other thing on Social Security. So many Republicans, House Republicans, have talked about cutting Social Security. We know, of course, what Senator Scott said. We know what his 10-year plan, the 10-year plan that some of these MAGA Republicans want to do is. But the House Republican, what's the word called? The House Republican Study Committee, which represents a majority of House members, called for three things: privatizing Social Security, cutting some of the benefits in Social Security, and raising the age. So there has been a Republican drumbeat to cut Social Security and Medicare, and we are going to fight this and fight this and fight this until it is dead, dead, dead. Thank you, everybody.